Hey guys, welcome to another review.
This here, without any further preamble, is the Sideshow Stage 5 Battle Damaged Arnold bust. And this is a very old piece. I'm thinking over 10 years old, maybe longer than that. This was done when Stan Winston was still alive in conjunction with Stan Winston Studios. And I'm reviewing this piece first because I also have the Stage 5 Battle Damaged Arnold bust from Howard Senft, which is on a whole other level. But I wanted to start off with this because this was one of the pieces I bought first, well before Howard's. And
It's just interesting to look at this piece,
to talk about it, go over it, and sort of see how far we've come from back then to now, but also to appreciate what was done back then with what they had.
So Stan Winston was involved, I think, either him or one of his immediate supervisors, John Rosengrant, I think was one of the big ones involved with Sideshow. He was involved with approval for this piece. And so for me, who was such a huge Stan Winston fan, that was always going to mean something to me because this reflects work and approval that was done when Stan Winston was alive. And it's extraordinarily accurate, as you would expect. This was created from the mold that was made from Arnold's face. We call those life casts. And so for the movie, they actually molded his face with his eyes closed and then took it off and used that for their special effects. This is the same casting from that mold. And we're going to go in a little bit more detail, getting closer to it, so you can appreciate some of that.
Today's day and age, we have platinum silicon, we got translucent resin, we have digital sculpture, 3D printing. A lot of that might make this piece seem archaic, even antique-like. And some of the detail that I marveled at may
Be taken for granted. So we have to remember that back when this was made, a lot of that technology wasn't available. Only 750 of these were created and sold. I have number 17.
So
let's take a look at why this piece is so remarkable.
we'll start with a very nice, classy base with a plaque, simply Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
The first thing to talk about is that there's so many different, for lack of a better term, types of material represented in this sculpture. So obviously we have the face.
Within that face is the battle damage. You can see the scrape marks, the bullet holes, multiple bullet holes on his cheek, along his neck, the blood dripping from that.
Then you have the hair, as well as the eyebrows, also sculpted. And then you have the actual eye right there. Then, on the other side, you have obviously the battle damage and the metal.
So you can see the endo skull
Underneath, significant battle damage.
Let's look a little bit closer here.
Look at that red eye. You can actually see the tiny hexagonal components behind that red eye. That's the sort of detail, by the way, that Sideshow doesn't really do anymore, that a lot of companies don't do anymore. Look at the detailing of the metal right here, close up.
Look at the teeth. You can see the yellow teeth right here. And you can see the pistons
Of the metallic jaw all the way up. And then obviously in your face, the macerated tissue, the damaged tissue, essentially the hamburgered nature of it.
You can see the transition of the paint from sort of that raw red bleeding mess all the way to the inner metal. And the blending of that is just remarkable. And here you have the transition again. It really looks like meat torn off of the metal, and then this is the port, obviously, where the chip sits.
So you have that. We have that blown off ear right here, look at that. And then, of course, you have the fabric of the leather jacket, and then the t-shirt. And then the metal buttons, the buckle right here. So all in all, look at all of this. And they had to do it all from polystone. That's amazing. When you see Howard's work, the platinum silicon feels like flesh, it feels like skin. The metal is metal. It's electroplated chrome. Hair is real hair. The eyes are medical grade eyeball. There's a real leather jacket there. Everything's real, and of course that can't be beat. But this is all polystone, and they did a phenomenal job as far as it goes, fooling you into thinking all these different things are real. So the messed up flesh, the meat, you know, that looks real. The skin textures. Look at the collar here. Look at the texturing here. If you didn't touch it, you would think that was cotton or fabric. The leather jacket is spectacular. You have all of the bullet holes, it's weathered. You can see the stitching. Remember, this is not a real leather jacket. Again, it's polystone. They carved, they sculpted the stitching. Look at the detail work they did that. Look at the length to which they went to try to make you believe that this is actually a leather jacket. Look at the texturing. If you just sat here and looked at it, you would swear that this was a piece of metal. It's not. Again, all polystone. Look at the rich texturing here. All of this. The folds of that strap all the way to the back. Again, appreciate the little tiny stitches of that leather. Look at the wearing of it, the bullet holes in the back. All the way back here. So something as mundane as a black leather jacket they brought to life with all that detail. It really looks like a shot up, old, beaten up leather jacket and a torn t-shirt. Look at the detailing. You can see the pores of the skin. Amazing paint job. You can see the red glistening here. Fantastic work on the eye as well. You can even see some of the red arteries in the eye. The wrinkle lines on the side. Okay. There's a light up, of course. So when you press this little switch at the back, the eye lights up. You can see that it's a very, very strong red light. I mean, in the dark, it really lights up the room. Sinister, very movie accurate. Look at that side profile. They balance the eyes very nicely, so it looks like it's on the same level. So my point is that even after all this time, this is still a pretty magnificent piece, worthy of a lot of admiration for the work they did. And it's not something, again, that's easily appreciated just by a cursory examination, but hopefully I've gone really, really deep. I have a light on through my phone. These phones are now good enough to give you some of that resolution, high definition resolution. And you can appreciate finally why this is such a great piece. And again, sanctioned by Stan Winston himself of Stan Winston Studios.
It's a true old school grail.
When you look at it here, it looks good, but not exceptional. But again, when you go real close and you see some of that detailing here, 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 here. Again, that's when you appreciate the artistry. Look at that hole right here. That goes all the way through here. You know, this is a punch hole through with a bullet. All this, all of that. That's amazing. The final thing is when you turn the light off, a nice little touch. It doesn't just switch off, it fades out, which is a touch that only Sideshow does. They did that with all of their endo skulls at that time, and it's a very nice touch, and it's appreciated. Now, are there areas of improvement? Obviously. This is a very old piece.
There are some areas that I feel could have been done a little bit better. A large part of it obviously constrained by the technology at the time. The hair doesn't look good. It's sculpted, it's painted, and you just can't get around the fact that it does look a little bit fake. It's sculpted hair. Sculpted hair is hard to do. That's something that's still a challenge to this day. So all of this, you know, looks a little bit fake. It's sculpted hair, what can you do? It can never approach hand-punched real hair. Or even a wig, properly blended. Okay, so that's one. Number two, his pose is a little awkward. As you can see, if you look at him straight on, like this, he's not really looking at you. You actually get a pretty good view of Arnold's face. But the money shot, the spectacular shot, is actually the other side. That's the side. And you don't really get to see that because if you want to see that, as you can see, you get the side view here, okay? So if you display him head on, this is what you're gonna see. So he does have sort of this odd look where he's looking a little bit down and to his right, and it doesn't make displaying him easily, especially if you want to show off this. Optimum view, in my opinion, is straight on, and as you can see, you get this, the corner here instead, lined up. So that's one thing. He's still resin and still suffers from the intrinsic issues with just regular resin and polystone. It does look like a sculpt. Now, a fantastic, very, very accurate sculpt, a life cast of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator. But you're gonna see when we bring out Howard Senft's battle damaged version, excuse me, that doesn't look like a sculpt or a cast. It looks like you cut Arnold's head off and put it in your living room or on your kitchen table. And there is that distinction. But again, Sideshow's original, licensed. Stan Winston Studios, approved, worked with them. Stage 5 Battle Damage Arnold. Still, after all this time, one of my favorite pieces, and still something I look at and appreciate to this day, even though it has been surpassed in the next decade or so by more realistic works of art. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will have another video, of course, with Howard's work, and then another video having the two side by side to compare later on. Until next time, take care, bye.